and today we are making the beautiful, the elegant, the classic geode cake. Yes! So, first of all, if the sticker on your box right here does not say Geode Cake Kit, no worries, you're probably looking for another video, so go ahead and head back to our YouTube channel and find the video that's titled the same as whatever sticker is right here on your My Make Studio box. If it does say Geode Cake Kit, welcome! This one is super classic, super elegant. It's going to be a fun time. There are a couple things we need to go over before we actually make our geode. So number one is cake mixes right here. You need to bake it. You need to bake your cakes. You need to have a cake to decorate. So on the back of the cake mix box, there are directions on how to do that. If you run into any crazy trouble or anything like that, we also have a live chat option, but the directions are right there on the box, so just follow those along and you should be just fine. And if you're like, oh my gosh, Chayla, I don't have a cake pan, don't worry, I got you. I got you. So inside your box are 2 cake pans. What? I think it's super cool that we can do this, you guys, because when I first started decorating, I didn't have any of the tools. Like, there was definitely a time where I made a makeshift cake pan out of aluminum foil. You can do that in a pinch. I don't recommend it. But if you don't have cake pans, no worries, we got you. So just mix up your cake batter, divide it evenly between these two, and bake them. After your cakes are baked, for the geode cake specifically, I highly recommend that it is cold or super cold. You could do room temperature, but because we have to do so much smoothing out and we actually have to cut a piece out of this cake, it is going to be a lot easier for you the colder your cake is and less likely to fall apart and give you trouble. So I highly recommend that you bake them, let them cool off, and then pop them in the freezer for even an hour before you decorate them. I know that's a little bit of a longer step than any of our other cake videos, but for this one in particular, I do think it is much easier to decorate when it's really cold, and I want you guys to have a good time and have fun. So that is my recommendation. Do with it what you will, but after you've done that, there are just a couple more things. Number one, or I guess number two, is you need a pair of handy dandy scissors. This is going to be to cut some things open, and then I always recommend having some kind of towel, like a kitchen towel, a hand towel, even a paper towel. Just something we can wipe our icing fingers on, especially with this one. Our fingers are going to get messy with this one. And to put our open icings on and whatnot, and kind of keep our area a little bit more clean as we go. And then aside from that, because we have to cut parts of our cake, I do recommend that you grab a butter knife or even like a metal cake spatula will be just fine. And after that, go ahead and wash your hands super duper good. And once you've done those things, go ahead and come back to me and we'll start the decorating part. So I'm going to get set up and then we're going to go for it. All right. So in your box, there's a cake board. It's something to put your cake on. So I'm going to set it here and then I have my cakes. All right, so I have my cake. And what we're going to do is we're going to level this. So what that means is how it's a little rounded right here. I'm going to cut that off to where it's flat. So I'm going to just place it right in the center of my cake board. And just want to state, you guys, we ship all over the country. And so many things affect how your cake bakes. So depending on where you are in the country, your cake might have more of a rounded dome than mine. Or your cake might be completely flat to where you don't need to do this part. If either one of those is the case, you didn't do anything wrong. It just depends on where you are. Like, so many things can affect baking. One, everybody's ovens are different. Nobody's oven works the same. And then two, altitude can affect it, or like humidity, lack of humidity, even the weather outside. So if your cake does not look exactly like mine, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just probably that we're in different parts of the country right now. So mine is a little rounded, so I only need to cut a little bit off. And again, either a metal cake spatula like this or a butter knife works. And I'm going to get it to where I can see that it's in my cake. So I went sideways, and then you can either turn it and cut it, or you can saw it back in half, saw it back and forth. Either way works. Yes. And then if you don't want to waste this, especially with this cake, because you're going to have to cut a piece out of it, one, it can be a snack while you decorate. Or two, you could save them and then get some more icing and make cake balls or cake pops with them. Another good thing is getting some like vanilla or chocolate pudding and crumbling it up in it. These just options. So if you don't just want to eat your cake, or if you just don't want to throw it away, you can totally save it and create something new with it. Just wanted to let you know you can do that. So I'm going to set mine down, and then I'm going to go to my icings. So we have blue, white, purple, and another white. One of these whites is just for filling the inside of our cake. So I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to remove the seal. And then I'm going to fill this whole top part with white icing. How you go about that is totally up to you. I personally like to make rings and then slightly smooth out my rings to cover any gaps. That's just what my brain is just like, this is what we do. However, you don't have to do rings. You can do polka dots, you can do zigzags, you can do swirlies, you can go blah, 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 blah. Any way works. We just want white icing all on the top of this. So I'm going to go ahead and do rings, and then I always start on the outside edge. Again, there is no particular reason for this. It's just how my brain works. And then as I start to use my icing, you can push some down from the top, and then treat this like toothpaste as you go and fold it so you're keeping that pressure even to where it's easier to squeeze. Perfect! So, I have a little bit of gaps going on. So you can use that butter knife or the spatula, or inside your My Make Studio kit, it came with the spatula. And I love that I got blue today. It so fits the theme. We have a bunch of different colors of spatulas floating around out there, so if you got blue, cheers. If not, hey, they're all fun colors, but I also love all the colors. So with this, instead of smoothing it out, I'm sure there is a more technical term for it, but how my brain remembers it and remembers the amount of pressure is like you've got a feather and you're trying to like tickle somebody's nose. I do this with my cat a lot, and it's so in my brain it's called the feather petting. But what I'm going to do is a very light amount of pressure. Pet my icing in different directions to fill in those gaps. And I'm not like hardcore smoothing it out. I'm not really flattening it. I'm just kind of moving it around. Because the reason we want to fill in our gaps is since this is the filling for our cake, that way, whatever piece you cut, everyone's going to get a bite of the filling. That way no one is like, what the heck? Yes! Oh, and then this side's a little cattywampus, which would have been fine, but it's going to bother me, so I'm going to fix it. That's also how my brain works. Ta-da! And then we will be using this again, so I have a little bit of crumbage on there, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe it off now, just so it's ready to go when we need it again. On the towel, yes. So now I'm going to go to my other cake, and I'm going to level it too. And then for this one, since I have so much more surface area to cut, I am going to turn my cake while I do this, keeping my spatula or your butter knife level. If you accidentally like sneeze and cut it in half or something like that, it's okay. Just go ahead and take this piece off, put this one on the bottom, and add a little bit of icing to wherever they broke, and then put it in the freezer for a little bit. It'll help glue it back together, and then you can put this piece on top. Just in case that happens to you, there is a way to fix it. Oh yes. All right, I'm gonna set this with my other cake pile. Now the part that I just cut, instead of putting it like this, I want this part face first in my icing. So turn it upside down and sticking it on there. Now sometimes, depending on how you leveled your cake or put your icing on, you might need to play Tetris with the top of your cake a little bit until it just like fits perfectly in the spot that you want it. But honestly, I'm happy with how this spot, like with how this went. And I have a little bit of hourglass shape going on, but honestly, that's not gonna hurt this cake at all, and it's totally fine. So I'm happy with this. It's time for the icing. So I recommend that you start with white icing. The idea is that this geode is white and blue with hints of purple. However, if you want more purple, just use less blue. Both the blue and the purple are pretty strong colors, so they are going to definitely be seen on this cake. So I only usually use a little bit of purple here and there, but if you would rather have it more purple than blue, do your white, do a lot of purple, and then do a little bit of blue, which I'm going to do white, a lot of blue, and a little purple. But you can, there's totally ways, like, it is your cake. Whatever makes you happy and is gonna bring you the most joy eating, do it that way. But I'm gonna start with white, and I'm gonna take the seal off, and then all over the top and the sides of this cake, I'm gonna put some polka dots, some zigzags, some swoopy doops, some swirly doos, just icing everywhere. I didn't mean to do that. Hi. Okay, anyway, back to what I was doing. It's the little things, you guys. Alrighty. Ta-da! So now I'm going to do the same thing with my blue. I would say leave about this much blue in your icing though. If you were doing purple instead, you don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to save a little bit of blue because we will need to glue some things later. And I already used all my white, so I'll need like this much blue. It's just a little easier and less see-through than using the purple. That's why I say that. And now I'm just going to add some purple blobs. Or not purple, some blue. Alright, so, bam, we have a beautiful creation. Now, I'm going to take the spatula and we're going to swirl this around until we've completely covered up all of the cake on here. So, when I swirl things around, I like to go in this swooping motion. You can also pat your icing in the direction you want it to go. It does not have to be super duper smooth. I will tell you something that we can do to smooth it out more after you do this step. But honestly, since it is a geode and a rock, I think it makes it look a little bit more realistic if it's kind of got a messy vibe going on to it. But I understand that's not for everybody. So after I swirl this around, I will talk about a way that you can smooth it out more if you would like. But either way, you want to do this part. So we're creating a tie-dye swirly vibe going on. So I'm going to just swirl. Yes, I'm already in love. I'm already in love. And then if you feel like you're getting too much of one color on your cake, you can also, because I've got so much blue on here right now, you can also wipe that off or wipe it in a bowl in case you need to, like, in case you go to smooth your cake out and there's like a hole, then you can fill it back in there. So I've done this at the top, and then for the sides, I like to go up and down. You can go like this instead if you like. My braid is just not very happy when I go that way. So I go like this, but whatever feels right for you. We're just smearing our icing around right now. So there is no right or wrong way to do it. Just cover up all of the parts of your cake. So I'm gonna do that and I'll be back with you. Ta-da! Yes, it's already so pretty. So that being said, if you're like, no, this is pretty, you don't have to add the next color if you don't want to, but I like all the colors. So I'm gonna take my purple, and since I only want a little bit of purple, I'm not gonna bloop it all over like I did. If you want a lot of purple, you can put like 7 bloops on top, and maybe 6 or 7 on the sides in different locations, but I'm only gonna do a few, because I just want some hints of purple. And if you have any parts of your cake where like you can still see some of the cake or there's like a hole, you can add this there. And I like to make mine cattywampus, so I don't ever put them in the same spot. So I go like do, 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 do. But you can have them all even if you want. But since I like the whole swirly tie-dye effect. So I like put my blobs down in different directions. Okay. Ta-da! So I still have purple left, so I can always add more. I think it's best to start with a little bit. And don't worry, I did not forget about you. We will talk about smoothing it out all the way, but after this. So I'm gonna wipe my spatula off, and then you can just swirl it into your icing like we did, or you can take the end of it, press it in, and drag it in whatever direction you want it to go, and not fully swirl it in so it has more accents if you want more of an artistic paint vibe going on. I usually do this part and then I will go back and I'll swirl it slightly. That's just what I like. And again, it is your cake. So whatever's gonna make you happy, go for it. Like, at the end of the day, this is your cake. And I think it is so cool that we all get the same things and we follow along together, but especially, like all of the kits it happens, but especially the geode, nobody's geode ever looks the same. And I think that is one of the coolest things about this. Because in my world, cake and cupcakes are just art that you can eat. And I think that's awesome because I love art and I love to eat. And art is also unique, just like you are. So don't feel like it has to look exactly like mine does right now. Perfect. All right, so I'm just gonna lightly swirl this in. I'm gonna just scrape some of it here. Yeah, oh my gosh, yes, I love this purple color. So I'm gonna finish swirling my around and then I'll show you what it looks like. It looks so abstract, I love it. So I like this rough look. However, if you don't, you can take your spatula and use the edge of it, placing it like this, and then scraping along your cake to get more of an even layer. You could also use a butter knife for that. You don't want to apply a lot of pressure, but just enough that you can feel your icing. So for the top, and I do want to do my edges just a little. But again, it's just if you want to, just take it like this and swoop it around. You might need to swoop it a few times, but if you want to smooth it out, that's how you do it. I personally like this messy look I got going on. I think it is going to look so cool when it's done. I feel like out of all of our cake kits and cupcake kits too, this is the cake that requires the most trust because it is going to look really weird until it is done. It is one of those cakes where when you put the final step on, then you're like, I see it. So if you're like, I'm not sure about this, that is okay. That's a normal spot to be in. One of the things I feel like a lot of people don't talk about with cake decorating in general is learning to work with the things you didn't anticipate and how to like still make a design with that. And I feel like especially for this cake, that is very true. And you still gotta like put your trust in it. So the next part is going to be cutting out a piece of cake. So I'm just going to cut a triangle out. However, you can, you can even look up different geode cakes if you want, because you can cut an angle like this. You can make like a thin sliver that's like a vein. You don't have to do the same shape that I'm doing. If you want to look at different pictures to find out what shape feels better for you, you can do that and then cut that shape out. But once you cut it, there's no going back. So what I personally do is I find a part of my cake that I don't like. I know. If you don't have a part of your cake that you're like, I don't know how I feel about this. Awesome, high five. I have a part of my cake, like I'm staring at it right now, that I'm not too sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that part out. So if you are unsure about where you want to cut it, you can also take a toothpick or your butter knife and lightly trace into your icing your shape before you cut it. Let me hold this up for you. And then that way, if you don't like the shape, because you just traced into the icing, you can then pet it out and erase it. So this way you can play with different ways you want to cut it before you actually do it. I have icing on my face, big surprise. So I'm just gonna cut it and then I'm ready. And then you have a piece of cake to eat. Or you have some, oh my gosh, you could just put this in with your cake scraps and it already has icing on it. And then you could totally mix up your cake pop mixture that way. There'll be like blue and purple cake pops, but who doesn't want blue and purple cake pops? I might be biased though, because I always want to eat the desserts that are blue, but just saying, I'm going to set it aside for now. That's for after class. All right. So we have this. So remember how I said save some of your blue? If you didn't save any of your blue, get some of your purple. And if you're like, oh, I'm out of purple, get some of your white. And if you're like, I'm out of white, take that piece that you just cut off and take some icing from it and put little blobs in here. We do not have to completely cover this piece that we cut, but we need a little bit of icing in there to glue on our next part. So the main important part is the edge. So I'm just gonna scrape that right there. Again, it does not have to be a lot. This is just a little bit of glue. So even like that much is totally fine. And then I have icing on my hands. So we don't want any icing on our hands for the next part. So I'm actually gonna go wash my hands off and then I'm gonna dry them off very well. If you don't dry your hands off, and well, the next thing we're gonna do is play with fondant. So if you have wet hands when you play with fondant, it doesn't hurt your fondant, but it does make your fondant sticky, and it's just a really weird experience that I don't feel like we need to happen. So go ahead and wash your hands and make sure they're really dry, and then we'll go over the next part. If your hands are nice and clean, high five. Just kidding, good job. But mine aren't, so I'll be back. And we're back, nice and clean. So we're going to go to our little bag of fun here. And you have some white fondant. If you haven't played with fondant before, fondant is basically Play-Doh that you can eat. So I'm going to take my scissors, cut the bag open. I'm going to leave everything else inside the bag for right now. And then what I like to do to open my fondant, but honestly for this one, there's no right or wrong way to do it, is I cut the top off and then I slide my scissors down the side so I can leave it in a rectangle, kind of like a candy bar. And then we're going to put this in whatever shape you cut out. So the reason we do this is we are going to be adding the crystals for our geode after this. And they shine so much brighter if you put a clean white fondant base down versus if you put white icing down, because then they kind of sink into the icing a little bit and it makes them look kind of cloudy and dulls the color. So I know this is like a weird step, but it makes a world of difference in the long run. So you can either roll this out with a rolling pin, you can put some powdered sugar down so it doesn't stick to your work surface, and then roll it out, put it in here, and then cut the shape out. Or you can just mush it up and put it on in little chunks wherever you have icing. Since I didn't put icing all over, I am going to just flatten this out with my hands. And you probably won't need all of this fondant, but you might. And then I'm going to use the palm of my hand. Can you tell I make cakes? To kind of buffer it out. It doesn't have to be super smooth, it's habit. Yes, okay. And then I'm going to stick this in, being sure to press my fondant in nice and tight where I put those little poofs of icing. Yes. Now I have some parts hanging off, and that is okay. I'm just going to take my scissors and cut that right off. Ta-da! All right, you guys. This is where the messy fingers part comes in and the time-consuming part of this geode. What's going to happen is very simple. but it is going to take quite some time. I personally like to start with purple, so I will put purple rock candies right in here. In either, sometimes I do a straight line, sometimes I kind of like to like wave it a bit. I like how it looks that way, so I'm going to put some purple in, and then I'm going to fill the rest of this in with blue, and then I'm going to put white crystals along the edge. Now, if you want to do blue, then purple, then white, you totally can. Like, feel free to mix up the color patterns. I just think this one is, at least for how, oh, I didn't mean to like get my hair there. I think for this one, for me, that's just what I like. So I'm going to start with my purple rock candy. I'm going to cut it open, but I'm not going to dump these all out. I'm actually going to leave them in the bag. If you'd like to dump them in the little bowl, you totally can. And then I'm going to go back to the bag of fun. So you have this that looks like snot. I'm sorry, that's the only thing I can think of that it looks like. And I want you to know it's not snot, I promise. This is piping gel, which is an edible, clear, tasteless glue. And that's how we're gonna stick our candies on. But there are a couple things before we actually open this. Number one, it is very, very sticky, and it's gonna get on your fingers. If you don't like sticky fingers, if you have a pair of tweezers that are clean at home, you could use those to put your rocks on. But I'm gonna be using my fingers today. And since it is very sticky and it's going to get on your fingers, just remember that it's there and don't do that. It will come out of your hair. It's just going to feel really weird and sticky, but it will wash out just fine. It won't rip your hair out. Just try to remember, don't touch your hair. And then the other thing is it does tend to dry very quickly, so I'm not going to cover this whole thing in my piping gel. I'm only going to cut the tippy end of my gel, and then I'm going to go section by section. So I'm going to put the glue down for where I want my purple rocks, and then I'm going to set this aside like this, so if any comes out, it gets on this bag and not my workspace. And then I will go back and fill in the purple. You can also put a few dots down, and you have a paintbrush. If you would like to brush it out, we don't need a ton of glue to get these rocks to stick. So you don't need to have a big glob for one rock, you just need a little bit. So I like, and you can also use the tip of your bag. I don't know if you can really see what I'm doing, but I'm squeezing some down, and then I'm using this part of my bag to like pet it like I would with a paintbrush. I like them in the center, and then I want it to kind of go out crazy over here and over here. All right, and then you take your rock. I'm going to take a rock, one rock at a time, and place it into your glue. So I'm not just like, boop. When I place it, I am pushing it a little bit to where I can feel that it's also connecting with my fondant and kind of sticking in there. They'll be less likely to fall out while you're decorating it if you put a little bit of pressure with this, to where you can feel, okay, I feel some of that fondant resistance that's stuck in there. Like that. So I'm going to fill in all the glue I put down with the purple rocks, and I'll come back and I'll show you the blue ones. Ta-da! So I still have some more rock candies, but this is all the purple I want. I don't feel like I need any more purple. So now I'm going to do blue, and I'm going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to take my glue again. I'm going to put down some lines, and I'm also putting a blob and then using the end of my bag to smear it. And I'm only going to do 1/2 to start, because again, this dries pretty quickly. So I just did this bottom half, and I'm going to start putting the blue in. And with the blue, I'm going to come all the way to the edge of my white fondant. Yes, blue! I'm serious. Blue candy, blue desserts, blue anything. My brain is like, I need it. And I'm pressing them in, and I'm trying to keep them tightly together. And it's very time consuming, but it's going to be so pretty when you're done. So pretty. So I'll fill this row in. And then I will put glue on this part, fill it in, and I'll do the same thing on the other sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill it in, and then I'll come back to you. Ta-da! Oh my gosh, after all the rocks. So I have gone all the way to the edge of my fondant, and then I went ahead, we'll go ahead and do it again. On the edge, I'm going to put some glue. And all along the edge, I'm going to put the white rocks, and then I'm going to put a second row of white rocks that are sticking out of my icing. They are going to be a little bit more dulled, but I feel like it helps the cake look more natural and like they are forming with the rock. So that's what I like. And since my fingers are already sticky, I'm going to go ahead and do that part. And then we just have one more thing to do after that. So I'm just going to literally lay them on top. And then I might not make a full row into my icing, but I do want a couple sticking out here and there to make it look a bit more cohesive. And like I was talking about, like the forming out of it, I just feel like it helps pull it together. Yes! No more rocks! Yes! All right, so we have one more thing to do to this. So for this one, I do recommend that you get a little tiny bowl or a cup, because we have one of my favorite things in the world. Luster dust / disco glitter / it is edible glitter. So if you just sprinkle this on right now, it will create this beautiful shimmery powder. But I want to turn it into paint. So I'm going to wash my hands, and then I have a little cup. I dropped it. Luckily it landed on the right side. I have a little cup, and I'm only gonna put a couple drops of water in here, maybe 3. So if you're doing it with the sink, have the sink really low and be like, and then stop. So I'm gonna wash my hands, I'm gonna put a little water in this, and then I'm gonna show you the consistency that you're looking for. Hi. So I have about this much water in my cup, so just a little amount. The more water you put in, the more thin it's gonna be, and I think it works a little bit better if it's kind of thick. So I'm going to shake this packet, tap the top, give it a good this. That way all of my dust gets down here. We're probably still gonna have a little bit of sparkles going on, but like, sparkles are fun. So I'm just gonna cut this, and then I am going to pour all of this into my little cup. And mix it up. So you're looking for it to be the consistency of paint. And if you make it too thin, it's okay. You just might need to double coat it. But yes, it looks like liquid molten gold, which is what I want to do. So not on top of my rock crystals, but next to them is I'm going to dab this all the way along the edge. Now you can do one pretty line if you want. I like it to look very artsy, so I don't have it even. That's what I like. But again, feel free to put your own spin on it. You could even use this to, which I'm totally going to do, but because I have a gold splatter wall at home, so like this needs gold splatter. So I put some on my paintbrush, and I hold it over, and I tap, 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 tap. Yes. To put some splatters on there. You don't have to do the splatters if you don't want to. And if you're doing this side, flick it this way. Just know that it might get gold on something. So if you have anything important near your cake, go ahead and move it to avoid getting gold splatters on it if you're doing the splatter. But you could also use it to paint some pretty swirlies in there too. Like you can do so much with it. It's an edible paint, you guys. It's so awesome. So, progress updates, you can see splatters and paint. So I'm going to go ahead and finish painting my line, splatter it a bit more, and I'll come back. Yes, look at the top. Yes! And that is it, you guys. That is the Geode Cake Kit. High five, we did it. Congratulations. I know it is very time consuming, but like it's so cool. Plus I love rock candy, so I'm very excited to eat this one. But thank you guys so much for coming today. I hope you had a good time. I know that I did, and I know I already talked about it, but You know, it's just, it's art we can eat, you guys. That's so awesome. And with that being said, if you would like to share your beautiful creations with us, you can go to our website, which is mymakestudio.com, and there's a Chef Chayla tab you can click on, and there's an option for you to upload your photos of your beautiful creations there, and then it'll also make you a part of our baking club, and you'll get a certificate from me. So if you would like to share your creations, I love seeing what you guys do, because nobody's ever looks the exact same. Like, even with all of our other kits, like, no one's looked the same. You guys always find a way to put your own spin and personality into it, and I think that is one of the coolest things about this. Like, I love that so much. So feel free to share your creations with us, and if you're like, no, that is okay. You are not required to do it. Either way, I'm happy you're here, and I hope you had fun and enjoyed eating your cake. Just know, if you want to share it with us, I love seeing what you guys do, and you'll become part of the baking club, so you're always welcome to. And again, that is on our website, which is mymakestudio.com. Just look for the Chef Chayla tab. And then while you're there, if you want to see what else we have, because we have other cake kits, we also have square cake kits and cupcake kits, you can see what else we've got in case you need some more decoration in your life. And then if you would like to follow any of our social medias, our Facebook is My Make Studio, our Instagram is at My Make Studio. We put new and upcoming things going on there, and if you didn't know, we are in Colorado. So in case you just want to see like what's going on in our lives, those are good places to check out. And then we also have a TikTok, which is also at My Make Studio. So our TikTok is kind of more of like a little dive into my world. So if you want to know how I did this hair, or how to do some rainbow makeup, or see what weird things my dog is up to, or treats that I make at home, that is also a good place to check out. But yes, once again, you guys, thank you so much for coming. Like, I really appreciate it. I'm so happy you're here. I love that we can do things like this, and I really do hope you enjoy eating your beautiful geode creations. And as always, everyone, stay creative.